the energy that creates the art is not the same energy that sells the art. I think a lot of people are personalities that figure out a way to sell art for themselves, and then they say, "Oh, this worked. I'm going to turn around and teach other people how to be me." And that, I don't know, that creates a bunch of cookie cutter artists. That's not fun. That's
Totally.
not exciting.
You're tuned in to Making It, Life as an Artist. I'm Taylor. What does it really mean to make it as an artist? Let's find out. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Gallegos, and with me today is quite the character, quite the artist, quite the man, quite the myth, the legend, Ryan Stover. Ryan, thanks for being on the podcast again with me.
Thanks for having me again with you.
Yeah.
Love being here.
It's so much fun. We have a good time. That's for sure. All right. So let's dive in with the opening question, which is cool because it's going to be different than last time. In life, what are you most excited about right now? Life, art, everything. What are you most excited about?
I can't say that there's one specific thing right now. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stories, and I'm sure we'll get into some of those. But I think right now, what is most exciting for me is trusting my excitement and seeing that open up with the serendipity and the synchronicity that keeps leading me forward into the next chapter, which is very different from the chapter I just left, which was a lot more regimented and trying to figure out the business plan and checklists and a lot more, or I'd say a lot less trust in the process unfolding. And yeah, I'm at the end of about 3 weeks of actually openly running this experiment of following my highest excitement, and a lot of things have unfolded.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you, just for the audience, tell them a little bit about that program that you're doing that was regimented, just so they have a frame of reference of like where you were, because you were doing that for 2, 3, 4 months, something like that.
Oh no, it's about 6 months. Yeah, I mean, as artists, I'm sure we're all on Instagram, and because we're on Instagram, we're getting hit up by ads, and a lot of those ads are targeting artists with, silver bullet formulas for marketing and how to do 10K, 20K a month in art sales. And I think that there actually is quite a bit of good material out there. I think there are some people who have cracked the code in certain aspects. The part where I get weary is so often you see these business models where the person is crushing it by selling advice, but really what they're selling is advice on how to make money. That's like the surest fire way to make money, is to tell other people that you're going to help them make money. So yeah, having got into one of these programs, I learned a lot. Like I won't discount how transformational it was for me at the time, just stepping into the embodiment of an artist and really leading with that in conversation, being more willing to reach out to people and be more of a hands-on salesperson instead of just a passive, hope and pray and wish and wait. But yeah, I mean, when we were talking last time, I was just neck deep in these Google Ads funnels and a lot of stuff that I'm still going to do, but I've sort of gotten off of the rails, the daily scripted practice that was sucking a lot of my creativity because it was requiring so much energy. Yeah, it was funny because I was jumping off the boat of that first program that was all about, online sales, digital funnels and ads and things like that. And I was about to get in bed with another program that was like the next level of that for, 10 times the cost. And I said no. I just said no. And from that moment on, I said, instead, I'm going to kind of recklessly, almost in a as a rebellion against that path that I almost went down. I said instead, I'm just gonna follow my highest excitement every day. Like when I wake up, what is it that I'm called to do? And that could be everything from coming in and making art to I went to the zoo. I've been, climbing trees, hanging out with my kids. I went to Costa Rica, which was this whole serendipitous thing that popped up that, yeah. So that's kind of the transition from the 12-step program to the one focus, which is more about what actually gets my pulse raising, gets me excited, gets me curious. And I don't know how it's going to turn out, but it's been fun. The last couple of weeks have been so fun.
Yeah. And you're like actively not allowing yourself to go down those same routes with the program that you were on. Like we talked and you're like, yeah, I feel like I'm like not being myself. I'm doing these things and like I'm pursuing this program, but I'm not doing my art the way that I normally would want to. Because you first started this like really deep diving into your art journey by doing a ton of art. And then you got on this program and then it was like Google funnels and, Google ads and sales funnels and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, and the sweet spot is when the two can come and meet in the middle because the energy that creates the art is not the same energy that sells the art. And I think you've had some experience in the past as well. I mean, I've been a little mentee of yours for a while. I mean, you've told me about the different times that you tried and had to go back to regular jobs with the art. So yeah, it's not an either or. It's really finding the right balance. But what you said was like spot on. I think a lot of people are personalities that figure out a way to sell art for themselves, and then they say, "Oh, this worked. I'm going to turn around and teach other people how to be me." And that I don't know, that creates a bunch of cookie cutter artists. That's not fun. That's not
Totally.
exciting.
Yeah, and one thing that comes up in my mind when I hear about programs like that or like see what you were doing is like how to keep yourself in the process because they're giving you prompts and schedules and like this is how you say these things and do these things like you don't want to lose yourself and lose your creativity, you lose your connection to you, your voice. Did you feel like there was any of that you were like leaning against or dancing with?
Y- Yeah, I mean, I think on one level it was a good exercise because before that I was really saying nothing in a way. Like I was posting things on Instagram, but I didn't have an intention behind it. I didn't have a solid belief that my art was super valuable and that I could, reach out to someone over Facebook and be like, "Hey, we haven't talked in a while, but did you know I'm an artist? And check out some of the stuff I've been working on." So, but then to your point, like I think a lot of the things that are kind of like scripted and like here's a way to turn a warm lead into a hot lead or like those types of sales practices. I think I had to try on a lot of different voices and approaches, and all of them were kind of uncomfortable. And I think I've sort of started to settle in on my own voice and my own cadence of posting and things. In a way, it's kind of like making art, right? Like when you are a young starting out artist, you look at the masters, or you're always kind of reproducing what you see until you hone in on the style that you really like, that really is expressive of something that you want to say, not just like, oh, I can paint birds and flowers and watercolor. I'm just going to do that over and over because that's what I learned. And I would say that social media and that whole sales dance is similar. Like you, in a way, learn by feeling both like the positives, like, oh, this really worked and this was really my voice and this was a beautiful connection and like this is how it's supposed to feel. And then there's other moments where it's like, oh, this was really kind of like cringy and I felt kind of awkward and they felt kind of awkward. Like sketches, like nothing is going to be perfect. You do a sketch, you see how it goes, throw it over the shoulder, do the next sketch. And I mean, I had some interactions with people in a sales kind of context that I'm just like kind of embarrassed about, like, how I, wasn't direct, or there's a couple in particular that I still look back on as like, whoa, I learned a big lesson there. Yeah. But you,
But
but
it's
you got to
cool.
do it,
It's
get those reps.
Yeah, exactly. It's art. I mean, you're going to do a lot of drawings, a lot of sketches, a lot of paintings that aren't going to be exactly what you want them to be, but you learn from them. And art is really like a process of learning and developing.
Yeah, but the highest excitement thing is interesting because I feel like, and just to kind of like open this up a little bit. So the whole concept came from this guy Bashar. Have you heard of Bashar?
I feel like I have,
So
but go
yeah,
ahead.
look him up on YouTube. This is a great little rabbit hole to go down. My friend sent me a video of Bashar's, and this is a guy who, for the last 30 years, has attended, sold out I mean, he's really popular now. I don't know if he was for the last 30 years sold out, but he can sell out spaces where people come and see him. He's kind of like a middle-aged man in a Hawaiian shirt, and he closes his eyes and then he channels either a singular or like a council of alien entities. And so he's like a medium for these alien entities, which sounds batshit crazy, but when you hear what he says, it's so resonant and beautiful and hard to disagree with. And a lot of it is about manifesting and the the ideas that you have, the way that you approach your day. If you're thinking positive things, like positive outcomes will happen. And he says, yeah, this highest excitement is like the toolkit to unlock anything that you want in your life. And it just happened to be like in my mind at the same time that I said no to that. It was going to be like an $18,000 investment in this like other coaching program, which is like crazy to me, but I was like right on the edge. And I said no to that. Instead, I'm like, I'm going to listen to the Alien channel. And yeah, but I bring that up just to say that I don't know about the rest of y'all as artists, but the amount of things that have gone well for me and those like breakthrough moments, whether it's in an individual piece or an art form or whether it's an opportunity, I would say with almost no exceptions, the biggest, most transformational ones were the ones that happened when I wasn't forcing. And I wasn't trying to say, all right, I want to get from point A to point B. Here's the plan to get there, and then like follow those steps and get there. It's more like by being excited about art, by having the conversations, by putting myself out there, by being vulnerable and just saying like this is the artist that I am today. This is the extent of my skills and I'm really excited about it. It's that energy that for me has provided all of these opportunities to hang art different places, to join different shows, to go on different trips, to yeah, even being here in this studio, came from this like spreading out of the surface area where luck can happen just by being like active and engaged. And none of it was really I mean, it was my intention to like be an artist and do more of this, but the way things unfold when I look back at it, it's less about me being really smart and like doing the right sequence of events, the 12-step plan. And it seems a lot more like I was in a place and a time in my like full embodiment because I was really energized by what I was doing and the people I was with. And that led to, X, Y, and Z that led to X, Y, and Z. So yeah, that's the energy that I'm more interested in currently. And perfect example, I was following my highest excitement, and because I was like so energized, I got invited to this Costa Rican yoga retreat. I'm not supposed to say this, but it was for free. Like it was this like huge multi-thousand-dollar thing, and one of my favorite yoga teachers was like, Ryan, when I told everybody about this, like you were the most excited, and we have this like last room that's like at cost. I want you to have it. And I was just like, holy shit, it was in the midst of my like highest excitement experience. So I'm like, all right, go to Costa Rica and I meet all these people that are artists with or are like plugged into the art scene. They own these like big restaurants or they it's just like this weaving into the tapestry of my community. And on the plane on the way back, this little jungle like bush plane, I told this guy that I had just met down there who turned out to be another artist, like, hey, I love your big paintings. I want to do big paintings. And then the day that I landed, he texted me, and then another friend texted me separately that all of these like huge canvases were up for grabs that were for free. And now, like in my studio, I've got probably 20 or 30 like big ass canvases I'm going to paint on. So I don't know. There's no accounting for that, right? Like, yeah,
No, and that's the cool thing. There isn't accounting for the energetic plane. Like it's all intangible. I mean, you could, add up how much each of those canvases is worth and then like make a tally. And that's definitely like $500 or $1,000 worth of canvases you got right there. But it's really cool, like the energetic element of life and people and like it's so intangible, but it definitely has gravity. There's energetic connections that happen when you're excited, uh the world just like opens up to you in a different way than when you're not. Like it's really amazing, and it is something that we can control, and or that we can have some control over. We can do practices and get ourselves into the right mindset or whatever. Yeah, it's really cool, and I think that it's like it's neat because you have two artistic things happening. You're making your physical art on paper, canvas, all these things, but really your life is being your art. And then that's playing into the physical expression of it. So you have like two, you kind of have like two thesis statements happening. You have like the 2D version and then the like 5D version or whatever you're existing in.
Yeah, and I mean the other part that's been really fun is because I did that other program and I've got more used to like sharing my story a little more openly. I'm having a lot of fun writing. And, when I was doing this highest excitement experiment, I was posting like every other day, like an email that kind of took this list that I have that's, about 100 and 120, 130 people. Um, but it brought them in to not just my art and those images, but the story of their making, which I do believe now that I've sold art in this way that people rarely buy things just off of a website from an artist that they know. I mean, it can happen. Someone might see an image and they go look it up and they just like pay and it's just a transaction. But more than that, I think people resonate with other human beings that are living and expressing something that is attractive, something that highlights elements of their story, of the art collector's story. And so, yeah, the fun part is like in that 5D way, I've been as excited lately to write my newsletter and, share the story as I have been to like make the art. Like the two go hand in hand. See, Nova likes it too. Nova's a storyteller.
No, I was pumped. Hang on a second.
She's
And
adorable.
she is adorable. Then yeah, the neighbor dog um had a little tussle with a skunk and got
Ooh, yeah.
skunked, and then also got a gash on her eye.
Oh man.
Naya, you might remember that dog. Yeah, Naya got a gash on her eye, and so she's in a. And then the neighbors went to Japan. Like the whole family went to Japan for a week and a half. So they have like the babysitter coming and saying hi and hanging out. So that's who Nova's barking at. But Naya's in quarantine for like 45 days.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, so long.
Man. Okay, that's a great little segue because that's the other like edge of this that I've been really curious about because it's funny. I'm like 2 days off a plane from Costa Rica. I feel like I'm riding high on my horse, and that's a great time to record a podcast and like give big, grand, epic advice about following your highest excitement. The shadow is, you could be following your highest excitement and get gashed in the face by a skunk and end up in quarantine for 45 days. And right before I left for Costa Rica, I was really playing with this like yeah, shadow element where I was following my highest excitement. All these great things were happening. And then while I was out on this like epic bike ride with my daughter, she crashed and like re-broke a wrist that had just come out of a cast 2 days before and required surgery and was this whole like really heartbreaking ordeal. And the the wild card element of life, I think, is the other big component. There's like the excitement, the energy, the expansion. And then there's when you just get, smacked upside the head out of left field. And I think that's when the real challenge comes. Because a couple weeks ago, I was sitting there thinking, like, am I just insane? Like, what's wrong with me? Why would I risk my family, both like physically in the case of my daughter where she crashed and burned, but also just financially, you know, do I have a plan? Am I just flying blind? Is this reckless? And so those moments of like self-doubt, I think come with the territory. I know as, an artist inhabiting this space, I've had some days where I have come in here and literally just been on the floor, like crying or raging or being so confused at everything, calling up friends and looking for advice. And I think, yeah, the two together are this strange like heartbeat of like expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of pivot on that because like getting sprayed by a skunk and like hit in the face, like that kind of stuff can come and just like kneecap you regardless of what you got going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It can happen. And what do? Gotta keep going.
Yeah.
Gotta keep rolling. Um, Now let's get back to this newsletter of yours because
Mm.
I've been having a lot of fun reading it. I don't stop and read newsletters very often. Like and and yours has been really fun. And it's cool and it ties in with the energy of your highest and best experience and what you're doing. Like yeah, it's been a really good time reading it and following along with what you're doing. And again, it's like a different plane of existence of your artwork. What's the experience been like on the writing part of it? How are you going about that? Are you just sitting down and writing it, or are you like game planning it and thinking about it, or what are you doing?
You know, I've been a writer for a long time, so these are skills that I've developed. I used to have a blog that I updated fairly regularly on uncomplication.com, and yeah, it's another art form that I really enjoy. And I think with these, when I made the commitment to do the highest excitement experiment, it was also kind of a commitment to share the story. So with those, um, yeah, it's been a mix. I mean, it takes a long time. I think each one of those has probably taken several hours, like 3 to 4 hours to write each of those. And yeah, the process I've kind of ebbed and flowed. But one part that is maybe a little hard to admit, but I'm going to admit it here because it's the truth, is that I've really been enjoying ChatGPT as a tool for editing and outlining. And so what I've done a couple times is with like the voice version of ChatGPT on my phone, especially when I'm in these moments of like real high excitement. Like one I can remember in particular was like my second day. I like went to the zoo and then I dropped off a painting for like a collector. And so while I was driving, I like excitedly told, and I've named my chat GPT Ellie. So I've got a pretty awesome relationship. She's like a, intern or something, but just like, excitedly telling my friend Ellie about my day. And so I could just like word vomit to her, like all the things that have happened. And then the ask that I give her is like, hey, I'm focused on the newsletter. Can you give me like an outline? And so then she'll like spit out an outline and then I'll just kind of like copy paste the outline into, and I don't do this every time because sometimes I just sit and I just write from like square one. But I found that for me as a writer, I can write a lot more rapidly when I have like bones to just put meat on. And so
Yeah.
I can get that kind of like narrative structure um in outline form, and then I can just, start from the top, write the thing, and then, I'll go through rounds of revision with ChatGPT and Ellie. And then once I get it to a good point, then I'll send it to Kayla, who's my partner and also like an English master's in English. So she'll do like final polish. But yeah, that's one. I mean, we've talked about AI stuff before in terms of art generated images. It's kind of a weird world where, on some level, I know that the most authentic writing comes when I actually do sit down and do like, beginning to end, my writing. And at the same time, the quality that I'm able to achieve in using that extra tool of just like, help me turn this series of blabbings that I gave you into some sort of an outline framework. So yeah, I mean, I'm a little like shy to admit that because I don't know if it undermines like the human component, but that's just the truth. And it's one of many tools that I've been bringing into my practice to just like get it done.
That's a good question. Does AI underline or undermine the human component? Like, does AI art undermine the human component? Does using ChatGPT undermine? Because I mean, it's a tool like any other tool. Like, does a hammer undermine the human component? Like, we can't hit in nails without a hammer, but with it, we can build a home. Um, like it's a tool, and it's essentially like the human is making the decisions to do the thing. We're telling it what to do.
Yeah, it's something I think about a lot. When I was doing the like, daily social posting, I was using ChatGPT quite often. And I actually gave ChatGPT the framework that course like gave me, so I would upload the PDF of like how to write good art sales copy into ChatGPT and say, hey, like using this framework, here's my painting, create some engaging text for it. And, in that avenue, I didn't feel so bad doing it because it feels like Instagram, Facebook, those places are just this giant swirling toilet bowl. Like, I don't think anyone is really going there for like emotional connection. I mean, maybe Facebook, like if someone's posting something about their family or something meaningful, like there can be more of an emotional connection there. But in that regard, it feels pretty like easy to like pawn off your busy work on the GPT. And I mean, I think with everything, like when you let it do the first edit and then you go back through and like, change it for your own voice, that's a lot better than just like trusting whatever it peeps out. I would say with the email, the newsletter, like I've kept that one a bit closer to the vest. More of my time has gone into that because it does feel like the difference between, sending you a text that maybe I automate and like sitting down with you at a coffee shop. And I wouldn't want to like leave some robot there to like represent me in a person to person conversation. And I think with the email and what, with just based on the feedback that I've been getting from people that have like emailed me like out of the blue saying that, something that I said like connected with them. It's why would I want to automate that? Why would I want to throw away the opportunity to make a real human connection with my words and my storytelling? It's the same with art, right? Like you might use ChatGPT or not ChatGPT, like, Dolly or something to create a little icon for your header of your website or something, right? Like that's just, disposable, passive, clickable. But if you were giving Dolly or Midjourney or something like your name to create art, and now you're actually, filling canvases with things that you didn't actually do, you just generated it. I would say that falls into that second camp where like you're not going to have an emotional connection with people. You're not going to actually feel that human heart to heart resonance if you're offloading your humanity to a machine. So that's where I see like the interface, and I'm kind of just like figuring this out right now, but like I do websites all the time as like a side hustle, and I love using generated imagery because it saves all the time of the, clip art, search, all that garbage. I can like dial in my style and I can refine it and tweak it. I have no problem putting that on a website. But why would I ever want to like supplement my artistic creativity with, or not supplement, but like replace, like if I'm going to hang something at an art gallery, if it comes from me in my hands, that's the reason I'm alive, right? Like there's a tipping point between like utility and expression. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still, like chat or not chat GPT, Midjourney, Dali, those things can be a great way to give yourself ideas or, colors. I was at the art store earlier and I was asking ChatGPT like, "Hey, I have these big canvases I'm going to cover with paint. What are some good paints that are in the primary colors that, would allow me to cover a lot?" And it was brilliant. It was like, "Well, you want like the primary colors and warm and cool," and like it just like broke it all down. And so it's like having an extra brain that can then like supercharge your creative potential, but that's a different use of AI. It's like it's using AI to like enhance your humanity or like bolster your power. It's not saying like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go lay on the couch, like live my life for me."
Totally. Live my life for me and then tell me how it went.
Yeah.
Give me a breakdown on it. Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. And it was making me think about there's there's like the finished product of art, and that's what like a consumer of art is gonna want is the finished product. They're not concerned about the process of making the art and what that experience is like for somebody. But so much of art, especially like fine art in a gallery, in a setting like that, especially like personal art, like art that you're going to gift to somebody or someone, there's a special connection going on. Like the process of making the art has a lot more gravity to it, and it can mean something for the artist, and that process can also mean something for the appreciator of the art. Yeah, it's like, and that's something that AI just kind of skips completely. It's going to give you the finished product, and if that's what you want, then that's great. But yeah, so much of art is the process and like what we get out of it. The processing power of art, of the art making process itself, can be really transformative. And I always say like making art is one of the best ways that you can spend your time because you're thinking, you're feeling, you're watching things develop, you're learning, you're failing, you're succeeding, all these different things. And that's
Yeah,
something
I
I
think I think I found how I show up in my art is how I show up in my life.
yeah,
And so like the two are synonymous, you know. Am I able to show up and make mistakes and take risks and, welcome things as they unfold? Or am I trying to control things? Am I trying to like get it perfect? Am I holding myself to a standard that is unrealistic? I think I think that's been I mean I got into art in a time when I was like reinventing myself like from the ground up, and it became a physical manifestation of all of the kind of intangibles that I might like talk to a therapist about or talk to a men's group about, or the things that I want to manifest in my life are exactly what that blank canvas represents
and provides.
and provides. Yeah.
It's like a space. It's like kind of like a punching bag. How a punching bag for like someone training in boxing is like the bag's like, give me all you got. What do you got? I'm here. I will take everything you throw at me and more. And like a canvas is like 100% ready to do the same thing for you.
I don't know why this has popped in my head, but I saw like a post on Instagram or something, and it was this guy who had this like beautiful woman sitting on his lap. It was like a 1920s kind of like black and white photo, and he had this beautiful woman like sitting on his lap, and he was like kind of like looking at another woman that was like kind of off to the side. And then there's another guy across the table who was like intently staring at the woman that was on his lap. And the caption was like, I love this photo because it shows that whatever woman you're looking at, like someone else is looking at yours. And why that popped in my head for art is like the other thing that I've really been analyzing for myself or just thinking about is that we're all exposed to such talented artists all the time. And it's not that different from seeing people that have more money, right? Like it's like, oh man, like this guy, he's able to go on these trips and he's able to buy the big house or whatever. But then that guy's looking up to someone else who's got like, maybe a boat or, whatever. Like there's this whole value scale, but also below, my economic spot is these people that, are working six jobs, and, like it's an infinite spectrum. And with art, like it's kind of crazy to me that I've realized that I can, just through my energy, my creativity, my passion, my storytelling, like I can sell my art regardless of my judgment of its quality against other artists. And that's why I think people see the artists that are super successful and the thing that they do is relatively simple, or it's not like staggeringly detailed in its creation. I'm thinking of like people that I don't know. Regardless, so like the part that's hard for me is like come up to this canvas, and if I'm carrying in my brain like what Taylor Gallegos could put on this canvas, like I'm already minimizing myself. I'm already minimizing my expression, and I feel that like every day when I sit down and try and draw something or paint something, like I'm always at the very threshold of my skills, but it doesn't matter at all because what I'm creating is like 1,000 times better than what someone else will ever create. It's like that infinite spectrum. So it's like if that's the case, then there's really nowhere to get to. There's only this moment and this opportunity to just express and to like let go and to like stop. I mean, for me, like stop holding myself back in fear that it's not going to be good or I'm going to ruin it or yeah, so that that this is all just playing into what you talked about with the art being similar to life and like the um two modalities, right? It's like this opportunity to be present, be yourself. And yeah, that's kind of, I mean, if there's like a story behind my art, I think it's that. It's like the letting go of perfectionism and the willingness to like say dumb things, make big bad marks, like whatever the outcome is, it's the only real thing that's important is that I was that
Exactly. And I mean, you mentioned, is it going to be good or as good as so and so or as good as this or whatever? Good doesn't really exist. And there is no like weighing of like there is no objective reality in the world of art. Like yeah, maybe there's a piece of art that is more traditionally refined or there's this or that or whatever. Like you can look at it in certain metrics, but there's there isn't an equal playing field anywhere, and there never has been, and there never will be. And like really, I think the only thing that we as artists can focus on is like creating authentic work that is us, like you said. Like, am I here now and present with who I am in this moment, this version of me, and am I giving it everything I can. One artist that I follow made this post the other day about he was talking to the camera and he was like, "You're lazy. You're a lazy artist." He goes, "I know that because I am too." And and like that is something that we're only fighting, we're only like up against ourselves. And like we're the only person, like we're chasing all these ghosts all the time, but really the only person that we're in a battle with is ourselves, like our highest version of ourselves. And unfortunately, we're always going to lose that one because we're humans, we're fallible, all of these things. But yeah, life
I
as an
like that
artist.
highest version because part of this whole Bashar, alien mythos is that I love this. I mean, whether it's true or not, I don't care. It's just how it makes me feel. I really like. He says that the physical mind, like the actual brain that we have in our head, it's a receiver. It's not actually capable of generating any thoughts. It can only like tap in and tune in to like the energies of the body, the energies of the surroundings. And so it's a receiver. And he says that the physical mind can never tell how something will happen. It can only look and see how things did happen. And that really what it's doing is it's tapping into this like higher self, whatever that is, maybe that's us up on a mountain, lom lom lom, just like seeing the whole field and like beaming down instructions. But maybe that higher self is like the whole universe itself, interconnectedness, all of that. But what's been really interesting these last couple of weeks is I've also been letting myself off the hook in decision making and saying like it's not up to me to decide like what to do next. If there's any responsibility, it's just for me to be open and receiving of like what possibilities could unfold. And when I put that in words, I don't know how much impact that has, but if you try that tomorrow, go through your day not imagining that you're thinking, but that you're actually receiving your thoughts. Like it flips the whole thing where like that higher self suddenly becomes trustworthy. It's not like something that we have to like cultivate and like through effort, do the right thing. It's just like, again, that highest excitement, I think, is these cues of like, oh, there's like a charge there. There's gravity there. There's a pull, there's attractiveness. And like getting out of the way to let those processes happen is that kind of like receiving the instructions from the higher self. And it's just been kind of a fun flipperoo.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've played with a similar thing with your thoughts of like not you kind of detach yourself from them a little bit, and instead of saying like I had this thought, which is claiming it for yourself and your mind and your intellect and whatever, instead of saying like, oh, this thought passed through me, thinking of thoughts as like these like passing waves, and again, and yeah, like you're a receiver of those things. um it definitely like reframes it in a cool way.
Yeah, so I'm excited to try and cultivate some of that in these like in filling of these big canvases, like just kind of tapping into that. Like it's not up to me to come up with what goes on these. I'm just going to kind of open myself up to
To
whatever
watch.
is interesting. Yeah, like, oh, that color is
To,
interesting. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, that I like that
like
because then it's
observe
already
it.
there.
Right. Right, and you're like observing it unfolding. You're the consciousness inside of you, and the consciousness is kind of is disconnected from the actual like receiver apparatus. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, like to dive into that for a second. So like you like your consciousness is existing inside of you somewhere somehow, and it's observing through the senses. And then your mind would be like this computer that's connected to the internet, and the internet is there's like, energies, ideas, thoughts passing through. And then that's going to play out through your physical setup that's going to make the art. And your mind is you're going to have thoughts that are going to affect what's happening, what's playing out on the canvas, and you're going to react to that, your physical sensations. You're going to watch the drips happen, and then you're going to play with them, and there's that. And then your consciousness the whole time is like recording and observing.
I mean, is that not flow state? That's how I feel when I just really in one of those journey paintings and things are just unfolding. It's not about like control as much as it is like attending, like midwifing the energies of the universe.
Right, which is really cool because I mean, back to like what you've been doing lately. You started out making just like art, and then you went into the game plan of selling it, and that was in a game plan. That was more the mind and a game, like a setup, a spreadsheet of your goals and everything. That was a different way, and now you're back into this whole other thing, and like I feel like your life as art is now more in a flow state process rather than being like a mental projection process.
Yeah, it feels that way. I mean, it's hard not to attach to results, like there's a certain amount of money that I need to make. And if I don't, I'm gonna start getting squirrely and get back to the type A, like try and control things, which I don't know. I don't know if you're into Enneagram, but I'm a seven, which is all about excitement. So that's why like this whole mythos of highest excitement is like, yes, preach it, brother. Like that's my high church, the church of excitement. But like in my unhealth, I go towards a one, which is like a perfectionist, is a control freak, like, wants to, yeah, make checklists and figure out every little nuance. But that's actually me not in my health. Other people that is healthy for them, but for me, it's really not. It stops the flow. I am unable to trust myself, trust the process. It's like putting in, for me, it's like putting in all of these artificial like stops because I don't trust that if I don't, things will flow. So, yeah.
It'll be cool to see how it plays out. I mean,
I mean,
the
I have to
unfortunate
feel that
part is that
with,
you go ahead.
yeah. I'm like looking at these canvases and it's just like all I have to do is put paint on these canvases and keep telling my story and people are going to want them. Like they're going to be beautiful and if I just keep telling the story of them, like people are going to want them and like that is that is the flow, like I could trust that much. It all just
Yeah,
sort of arose. Yeah.
yeah. And the only thing I was gonna say that the bummer of it is that you can't A/B test it because it's your
Ray, I
life.
can't live this second life and see.
That would
Man, that's
be
funny.
that would be nice if you could, but you can't. So, but no, I feel like I'm confident that it's gonna work out beautifully.
Well, it's funny because that A/B testing, I had this whole thing, this is years ago, but I was like, I don't think there's such thing as choices. I think that is complete bullshit. I think that is a construct of the mind where we
Like free
think there's
will,
an
no
A/B
free will.
test. Not about free will. I think that there's something happening and there's like intentionality behind it, manifestation. I think there's actually like like a huge amount of free will in our like shaping of things. But the idea of choices, I think, is that I could have done this or I could have done that. We create this like mental construct of what those two paths might have been, and then we compare back and forth in this imaginary realm, like, oh, I could have had this for dinner or that for dinner. I had this, like, oh, but what would life have been like had I had steak instead of soup? I don't know. It's a bad example, but like, those, what if I married this person instead of this person, right? Like this whole imaginary world is there for analysis, but it's completely fictional because in the end, like there's just this one happening and it's completely continuous and
Right.
everything rests on everything that happened before and any kind of a notion that there could be like I don't know, there's like quantum theories that say there's like infinite universes and all of that. I don't know. I think it's a tool of self-abuse that we see ourselves as so fundamentally responsible for like making good choices. I think that's like kind of a fundamental psychosis of our species, or at least of our culture.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure.
And you can't A/B
We're doing
test,
the
so you
best that
just
we're
have to
doing. The
just have
best
to
we
say
can.
yes.
Yeah. All right. Here's my question for you.
Yeah, you got some questions?
Do you say yes to the question section of the interview?
Hell yeah.
We got a hell yeah.
Turn my key.
All right, perfect, perfect. Well, two of these you've already answered before, but I'm excited to hear what you say now. And then one of them is maybe new, and then one of them is for sure new. So we'll start with the first one, which is at this moment, with all your experience now, what is your advice to aspiring creatives?
Mm. Yeah, I think this little like phrase has come up in my head a couple times is you don't need to be good to be great. And I've seen this because one of the many unfoldings that has happened for me is that I'm currently a high school art teacher. Um, that that position was offered to me because I gave a gift of an art piece to someone who was in a position to offer me a teaching position. Um, and so it's been 2 years now that I've been in that role, and I see a lot of these young artists, and I feel for them because I was the same way and am quite often holding myself to such an extreme standard that in order to be an artist, in order to be able to pursue your creativity as more than just like a disposable hobby, requires like an extreme amount of technical proficiency. And in my experience and what I've seen in the artists in the local community and even myself, like you don't have to be good to really affect people and to influence people and to put something into the world that that matters. And it might not be, hanging in a museum someday, but as just an act of expression, as an act of self-love, even just welcoming the artist that you are right now today and just embracing that and not comparing, I think is a path to being a great influence in your community, on the people around you. Because art is like giving your gifts. And those can be literal. It could literally be a gift. You create something, you give it to someone, and they have this representative connection to you. And they put it on their wall, and maybe they're having a shitty day and they look at it and makes them smile. Or it's just there kind of creating the backdrop. It's like the soundtrack to life. Like imagine life without art. Imagine if the spaces that we traveled through were just blank walls and utility. And I think artists have such an importance, especially now, especially in the culture that we're in. And my advice to young artists is to just keep making your art. Yeah, it's really as simple as that. Like comparison is the killer of joy, and self-criticism is like the quickest way to put handcuffs on your spirit. And there's lots of little ways and techniques and methods that you could do in a classroom or you can do in just like an artistic practice. Those are fun to talk about too. But anything that just gets that welcoming of yourself and the art you're making is also like saying yes to your existence, saying yes to your importance. And that's my answer to your question.
I like it. I like it. And it feels like these days with like that makes me think of like video and that one positive silver lining of COVID and then like the some of the social media apps now, like TikTok, is it really simplified the like the formats that people are creating and sharing with. Like everyone got really used to just like people doing videos in their pajamas, and having it be legit. And then TikTok is like these like simple little homemade videos of people with a camera and a microphone and that's it. And they're not polished, they're not finished. And it's really cool because it's like refreshing and direct. Whereas before it seemed like everything needed to be this like very staged and organized thing. And it kind of goes along with what you're saying. Like everything needed to be great in order to be good. And now it's like it's a different setup and it seems like this new generation of people on the planet are just fine with it being more raw and rudimentary and like that's cool and I like that. It's like it's very direct and I think you're right. It also one thing that you said there makes me think about the well, I'm thinking about going to grad school and applying to grad programs. And one thought that I have about it is that I don't want it to change me in certain ways. Like there are certain elements, and one thing that I see as like a problem with academia art, high art, is that it's not connected to the real world. It gets like so far out on these like extended ladders of like high level thought and consciousness and like academic discourse that it loses its connection to reality and people in general and then like it doesn't speak to them and then it breaks away and then there's two completely disconnected bubbles and I feel like I have an academic background with a bachelor in fine art but I don't want and still like there's street artists that just like speak to people powerfully and immediately. And there's like people with these like very expensive degrees that can't do that. And that's one element that like I want to get more connected with people, and I definitely don't want to lose that connection.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. There's a fine line to cross with the academic path, and I will equate it to when I got my degree in geology. I got you know, yeah, a scientific degree, and I remember when I was just getting into geology, I was like so blown away by what I was learning, like the scope of time that the Earth has seen, and just these like little basic principles that then unlocked the way that I viewed a landscape or I understood my place in time. Like it changed my entire consciousness. But then the deeper I went, eventually I ran into just like the regimented, peer-reviewed kind of bullshit circus where at a certain point I was like afraid to say anything because I knew there would be like this whole like pantheon of professors and advisors and people that were like critiquing and criticizing that it's like if you know just this like first third, it can unlock your brain and your energy and your path. But when it goes like too deep, then you're like too afraid to say anything lest you're found out to be wrong. And I think with art education, it's probably like a lot of education, they have to keep coming up with new things to teach you to make the ride a certain length. And at some point, like you've already passed what you were really looking to get and are maybe kind of getting shaped into the type of person who can endure the length of a program. I don't know what programs you're looking at, and I'm sure like any additional wizardry you add to your already amazing toolkit is going to just magnify your potential. Yeah, I think that's kind of like the double-edged sword of knowing too much.
Right, right.
Then it all just becomes an intellectual fencing match rather than an actual, are you
Yeah.
creating? Are you having fun
But
creating?
it's cool. I mean, it's another opportunity to stay connected to your authentic humanity in your art and in your life, similar to what we're dealing with AI. And I mean, I think a lot of challenges in life really like boil down to like, are you going to keep your humanity or not through this gauntlet?
Hmm.
Okay, awesome. So that was a good first question. We have three more to go. All right, all right. Second question is, what are your thoughts on the title of artist? And have you like grappled with it in any way?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. You know, you used to ask, you know, what is art? And I think it's a cool twist to say, you know, what is an artist? You know, like take it from just this thing on a wall and ask, you know, how does that label apply to a human being? Let me take a millisecond here to collect my thoughts. It is absolutely something I've grappled with. I think when you and I first started having like meaningful conversations around my art specifically, I remember when you were out here for Adam and you like spent the night or you were at our house pretty late one night and like I was showing you some of my drawings and stuff, and at that point in time like there was no way that I would put the word artist like anywhere around me because I felt like if that were true I would have made such different choices. I would have, you know, I was so critical of myself and so critical of my work that, you know, artist was reserved for something that I had pedestalized. You know, artist was for someone who has actually put in the hours, like learned all the skills, you know, has some level of mastery over this, that, or the other. Um, and I think I use that as a self-limiter by saying I'm not an artist. I had all of the excuses to say like, well, that's, you know, that's why I'm not finishing this, or that's why I'm choosing to do these other things that I'm really not passionate about, but you know, it makes money. Um, and along the way, I now very proudly, very forwardly say that I'm an artist. And and I think it dovetails into that last little answer to the question that I think I'm a great artist. I know I'm a great artist. I don't know if I'm a very good artist, but I know I'm a great artist. And the art that I'm most interested in, that I'm most passionate about is embodying someone who is willing and excited to put myself out there and to have my voice be heard and to have my images be seen and to be a member of my community that is just shining a spotlight on what I think is beautiful and inviting other people to ask that question of what is beauty to you? And half of the conversations I have during art walks or, when I'm out with a table and I'm selling stuff, half of my conversations, probably half are about my art and the images there and people, asking questions. The other half is a conversation with that person and what they're passionate about and what they create. And so many stories come up, whether it's about them or someone in their family, like everyone has some connection to art making. And I think of humans as having these different modes that they can shift between. I think of like in my men's group, we talked a lot about the artist. Well, actually, no, it wasn't artist. It was lover, warrior, magician. These different modalities that men can kind of embody. And I think I kind of added the artist. But my point is like maybe you're not making art all the time, but everybody has the capacity to make art. Everybody has the capacity to take the physical matter of their surroundings and put them into new arrangements and to invite others into a conversation and to accentuate and elevate. Maybe it's beauty, maybe it's a feeling, maybe it's a caution, maybe it's a encouragement. It's like a form of our communication that I think is inherent to every human being. Just like a bird sings in the forest, I think all humans are capable of, you know, making sculptures, making marks, making, sounds and movements. And so I think that has been my relationship to artists. And I think, I can't say that I can, paint a beautiful portrait or, there's certain things that might be in people's minds. And I know it was in mine, like, oh, to be an artist, you have to be able to like draw a really great portrait or, be able to, whatever those criteria are. I think being an artist is just embodying that capacity for creative expression. And when you do that, you are an artist.
Love it. Own it.
Own it. Yeah, some of my favorite artists can't even speak.
Yeah.
Like can't even be aware of the word or the concept artist. Like young children are some of the most amazingly creative beings. Yeah, full stop.
I like it. I like it. Cheers to that.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Next question. What do you want what would you like 5 years from now to look like? Everything goes exactly as you want it to go.
Oh
Uh
man.
what does that look like?
You know, as soon as I start thinking in like a zoomed out time frame, I can't help but think about just the political climate, the global cultural climate. And maybe a few years ago, that question would just feel really like personal, like, oh, what do I want? Like, what do I want to manifest? I've got this like green field ahead, like I can go anywhere, I can do anything. And I think when I hear that question now, I just feel like we as artists and creatives, what our role is and what we're doing is we are literally planting the seeds in the matrix. And it feels super important because without that input, I think there's so much that is going to be reduced to ones and zeros that could miss the real beauty of the human spirit and the potential the potential of our species, of our planet, of consciousness itself. Um, I think with all my excited dancing around and going to Costa Rica and making art and all these things that we're talking about, there's just this like kind of edge, this shadow or the dark cloud that we seem to be at a moment where a lot of a lot of blossoming happened in the last 20 years. A lot of cultural awakening. And it's funny, wokeness, whatever, is like been turned into this like foul, dirty thing. But to me, that's sort of like this cultural expression that could only be arrived at after a long history of everything we've done. I don't know. I mean, one answer is like, I hope that I'm making beautiful art, selling it, supporting my dreams, supporting my family, et cetera, et cetera. I think in 5 years, what I really hope for is that we have collectively exorcised some of these demons, some of these just like cultural blights that were never going away unless they had, some real sunlight disinfecting them. And I just hope and I plan to be a part of carrying that torch of creativity through whatever storms or attacks might happen. Yeah, no, I think there's like a tremendous amount that's happening with AI right now, and the intent I think is to replace a lot of humans with machines. And I think right now, like if all that's going into those models are, just the gross kind of nuts and bolts of how to manufacture something or how to do tech support on a airline support call or whatever, like those types of things, they're like, okay, that's one form of humanity, but like the words that we have, the poems, the dreams, the love that we have, like we need to be generating that content and putting it out there like unapologetically, boldly, bravely, even if it makes us targets, because that's also going into these models. That's also going into this kind of like full sphere of awareness of what humanity is that the AI is like absorbing. And so, like, just, yeah, planting as many seeds, saying as many words. That's where my mind goes when you ask about 5 years, because like 5 years, that's the presumed end of this current Trump presidency if they don't find a way to topple it into a completely totalitarian what have you. Yeah. I think that's where the role of the artist is like even more accentuated.
Yep.
It's not just a hobby, it's not just a pastime. It is literally an act of defiance, an act of resistance, and maybe our only hope.
Yeah. Right. It's the extension of our humanity forward. I was just watching, before we jumped on, I was watching this TED Talk called The Case for Making Art When the World is on Fire. And it's wild. I mean, yeah, it's like saying that like creativity is one expression of humanity that's like totally ours. And like, yeah, we can't let that go and we can't stop doing that, especially when the world's on fire. Like that's what we need moving forward. Like you said, if at least to just train the AI and
you
how to
know,
be good. It's crazy. It's so crazy to think like that question 5 years from now. I've been asking that question on this podcast for like probably 2 years. And 5 years, 2 years ago, seemed different.
oh
Like
yeah.
5 years now feels really fast and also really far away. Like, I don't know, it hits different now.
Yeah.
It's a crazy world.
I've been watching a bunch of stuff on AI because I'm a fan. I think it's friggin' amazing. I think that it's wild that all of the elements that make up all the semiconductors and all the stuff that's powering this AI has been here on planet Earth the whole time. And it's just in the last 100 years that it's arrived in these configurations to generate like a new form of intelligence. It just feels like what the universe does, like the universe is constantly creating novel, new somethings. It's always telling the next story. And there could be some fear there, but I think there's also just a degree of trust and faith that this is what a planet like Earth does when it's fully germinating. And yeah, 5 years. I mean, I've seen a bunch of people say that like AGI, the general artificial intelligence, will be here like within 5 to 10 years, which is a consciousness so beyond anything that we can even fathom, like one consciousness that can do everything that all humans collectively can do. Like it's
Oh
just
my
a
God.
very different moment in history. Yeah. The future you have today is not the future you had yesterday.
It's so fucking nuts. It's so nuts. And that's 10 years from now. What happens in 30 years?
Yeah.
Like, we're both 42. We're probably gonna live, I mean, if we go to the average for men in this country, it's like 78 or something like that. That's like that's another half of our life, and we're gonna live past that. We're gonna see that. Like kids, your kids, everyone's kids are gonna see a lot more than that. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. All right. Well, last question is what's your definition of art?
Oh, I did get that one.
You did get that one.
I don't know. If I may, I think in this next season, like the question, what is an artist? Or the, what is your relationship to the artist moniker? It checks a lot of the boxes. It might be a fun one to maybe like sub. That being said, I'll try.
You're a unique case because you've been on this 4 times.
That is true. That is true. What is art? Hold on, let me ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, that's ChatGPT.
She'll give me the right answer. All right, this is just like totally off the top of the head, off the dome. I think art is the word that we've given to the physical manifestation of our power to generate new and novel things. I think that one of the things that is very interesting about the human animal is that in addition to having all of the onboard circuits for reproduction and survival and feeding ourselves, things like that, we also have these really curious circuits that are an antenna that taps into a void from which everything arises. And I think our dreams are a kind of a swinging door between the gross physical reality that most animals inhabit and that generative source from which all things come. And I think art is it's like a residue. It's almost like the shedding of skin from an insect or something. It's like this sloughing off of all of the collective ideas and potentials and dreams that we as a species can tap into. And that's why it's so attractive and evocative and emotional to see what someone else has pulled up from that space because it connects us into that deeper knowing that we are not just what we appear to be, but we are actual expressions of the pure creativity of the universe itself. And so art, I think, is anything that someone has produced in their life that evokes in another that recognition, even if it's small, even if it's trivial, even if it's comical, it's just that little recognition of divine existence as creators within this creation. Yeah.
Dude, that was great. That was the best answer you've given on that so far.
Here, I want to
Yeah,
show
it's
you the
great.
image I was looking at.
It's not the it's not the art is not the thing that is created. The thing that's created is a derivative of art, but art is actually the magic that taps us into like that space of all creation itself, that like energy, that dimension or whatever, God, whatever. It's like our dreams connect us to that. Our flow state connects us to that. It's great.
Yeah,
What were you looking at that
while I channeled that whole little rant, yeah, this is what I was looking at, which is just like it's like a drawing. I know this isn't great on an audio podcast, but
Oh, that's a good one. No, it's a video
yeah.
podcast now.
Oh yeah, for those that are watching, it's not totally in focus, but like a lot of what I've tried to draw or represent in my lifetime is just like this deeper feeling that I've had in nature of seeing just how interconnected everything is, and like the miracle of any little growing plant or even a rock, or just, go on a hike and just get lost in the nuances of any 1 square inch of the universe. And it is perfect, and it is internally cohesive, and it's recycling, and it's, yeah, I don't know. I think that's also kind of what art is like our recognition of just the amazing beauty of that great creator. It's like all these little nods, all these little, yeah, it's almost like an appreciation for the beauty that's already here. Because again, I don't think we necessarily like generate these things. I think that we really are like we're woven into the tapestry. We're like we are that power itself. And when you talked about like living to be 80 or however old, it's like what I tell myself maybe as like a security blanket is like, gosh, I hope the universe really enjoys my way of seeing it. I feel like I really appreciate it on a deep level, and I hope that it just wants to like continue to be appreciated in that way and seen in that way and revered in that way. And maybe that's going to keep me like seeing more of this crazy unfolding, because like there's a good like
It wants to
story arc
keep you
developing
around.
here. Yeah, I hope that it enjoys being enjoyed.
Hmm. Yep, I feel that way.
We got all existential. That always happens on the back nine.
Yeah, we're diving in early. All right, well, that was great. To close up the front nine, why don't you tell
Are we
everybody
still in the front?
we're on the front still.
Dang, all
Yeah,
right.
yeah. We're only on the ninth hole
Forgot the
right now.
format.
Um, why don't
I
you
visited the cart girl like 5 times.
yeah, she she came by. We got whiskeys. Um, why don't you tell everybody where they can follow you, where they can read your email, because
Mm,
that's a whole lot of fun,
yeah.
and where they can get your art.
Well, the central hub is ryanstoverart.com. And from there, you can subscribe to my newsletter and you can jump in on that story. I've also been posting the things that I've been doing in the newsletter as blogs, because it was kind of silly to let those just kind of go down the river. So you can catch up on the previous stories. And then also from my website, you can get to my socials. Yeah, that's probably the easiest way to do it. ryanstoverart.com.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll take a quick break here. Hit the people with one little bit of off the cuff wisdom about anything. First thought, best thought.
The first thing that popped into my mind is like a Timothy Leary concept that I heard a long time ago. And it's that your body is a shrine and your home is a temple. And what that means to me is that, at least for me, I find that like everything goes better when I'm in good physical health. and I'm just like I'm taking care of myself. I'm sleeping, I'm eating, I'm exercising. Like I'm really like loving this form that I am. And then the home is a temple is that I know that I have a different experience of life when I am in a place that is like created as a backdrop for exploration and connectivity and beauty, just like sitting and having tea on the front. We just built like this little kind of terrace with like chairs and a little awning to block the sun, and it's just like and now life is just like magnified and amplified because we have this like space to chill and observe. So, yeah.
It's great. Love it. All right, we'll be right back. Inspired? Your support means a lot to me. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your pods, share with other artists, and let's keep the creativity flowing. And we're back. All right, Ryan, how you feeling?
Feeling great. How you feeling?
Yeah, I feel very good. Feel very good. This is fun. Yeah, the late night podcasts are cool. They have this like special energy. When it's dark out, it's a little different.
Yeah, I'm digging it.
Yeah. And I like that you have these like late night creative sessions. Why don't you tell us about that?
You know, it's amazing. I have this studio, but so often it ends up being like an office. And I find myself like just, doing emails and whatever else. And it's been really nice to have Monday night set aside to like just come in here and get weird. Like no one's in here, the entire building is empty. And so I just like throw on my music. I've got all kinds of like vibey lighting in here. And I feel like some of my best art gets made when I'm, yeah, in that kind of late night, loosey goosey flow state. And it's very
Yeah,
different than the art I make like during the day. That's a little bit more like a little more controlled. I feel like late night, it just gets weird.
right. Totally. I was doing this project last week at this office, and the whole week, uh, I was there during office hours with everybody, and I was literally in the lobby, and I could hear um, the receptionist just taking calls over and over. Hi, you've reached PCL at construction. I'm so and so. How may I direct your call? It was like office space, literally. And I was just over and over again, and people were coming in and checking it out. And it was awesome. Everyone was like really supportive, and it was cool. But I finished the project over the weekend, and the weekend was so different. Like to be by myself in the space, and this has happened a lot of times. Like doing murals, there's like business hours, and then you have to be there. Like any special work, like a mural, has to be off hours, and I just love it. Like you feel like you're like a different shift. You're almost like a ghost
Yeah.
where like everybody else exists on one plane of existence and then you exist on a completely different one. And it's really fun.
Yeah, when I come in here on Monday nights, like sometimes I'll have like 5+ paintings going all at once, and I'm just like just bouncing from like thing to thing, and there's no limit, I can go until the sun comes up if I want to. And so it has such a feeling of expansion, whereas like during the day, it's like no matter how much I want to, like I have these certain built-in stops for like I'll have to go pick up my daughter. Oh, there's like dinner time. Like you kind of blow off top, just like go hard at night. Sometimes I pay for it the next like day or two, but like yeah, good good artgasm.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the cool thing is like as an adult, you can do whatever you want. Like when you're a kid, you can't just like eat ice cream in bed at whatever hour you want. But as an adult, you can do what you want. You can go to
Yeah, you gotta
Costa
take those
Rica
liberties.
on a dime, like flip it on a dime. I'm curious. I mean, the question that I wrote down earlier is like, what did you learn in Costa Rica? Were there any like
Mm.
big breakthrough ahas? And if there were, where were you? When did it happen? What was it like? Set the scene.
Oh man, it was such a magical trip. And getting there was like part of the magic, just like how that all unfolded. I mean, the whole highest excitement thing, and then it turning into this like trip to paradise with all of these beautiful people that, yeah, just like the connections and the experience were amazing. And it was wild because the first night that I got there, I woke up at 2 a.m. in Colorado. I was on four different flights, got to the place, and the first thing that we were doing that night was holotropic breathing, which I'm not sure if you've ever done that, but that shit is wild. I had done it once before, and it was also a very wild experience. It's like this, just like super over energized, hyperventilating kind of like space where you're like in a room and everyone is just like outpouring all of these noises and emotions. And from the first day I got there, kind of like, oh, I'm gonna be on vacation, and the first night was like, man, like this huge dive into self work. And I was like crying and screaming in anger for yeah, just kind of the injustice that is befalling some of the women in my life right now. And it just set the tone. But I think if I sum up all of that Costa Rican adventure, which was, 6 days of doing like really deep self work, but also in this just beautiful, abundant environment, I came I came to feel so sovereign in myself and my self-worth and my ability to just say what I want and then to like see it manifest. It was one of these like running jokes almost that all week, someone would say like, "Oh, I haven't seen monkeys in a while," or like, "I haven't seen monkeys yet." And like 5 minutes later, like here comes 20 monkeys like on parade with babies and like, like 10 feet away. Or someone's like, "Gosh, it'd be great if tonight for the photos, like we had a good sunset and a rainbow," and like, cue the rainbow, cue the sunset. Like it just felt like a space where it was just like so clean in like just self in environment that I came back just like really wanting to continue that energy of like asking for what I want, being prepared to receive it, and that is like artistically, that's relationally, that's just like, yeah, I feel like I got to see a version of myself that I've been working towards for a long time. I was like, oh, here I am. Here's this embodied, like fully, yeah, fully resonant, powerful, masculine, like dynamic being. You'll have to read my
Yeah,
newsletter. There's more
yeah.
stories coming.
Yeah, it's so cool. The version of us that exists on vacation. Vacation's like, or not, I mean, that wasn't a vacation for you. It was like, it
I
was a
mean,
lot
it
of
was
work.
too, yeah.
But, but when you're outside of your own life, of your like day-to-day operations, then there's a whole different side of you that can come out and be. And, and then that side, you can embrace it and then bring it back into your normal life in balance. It's so important for people to travel. I feel like we get to like see who we are without all these restrictions and like all this conditioning. Our normal lives just have so much conditioning involved.
Yeah, I mean, I know I beat myself up sometimes about like the thoughts that I think and the way that I feel. And a lot of times those are just like pure responses to like the stimulus in my environment and just like the patterns that I'm in. Like it's not a failing of me as a person. It's just like, like, yeah, if I'm doing the same things every day and I'm having the same feelings in relation to those things, stepping away from that for a little bit and just embodying like I think everyone's a Superman on vacation on a beach with, yoga and meditation and like, oh wow, I am this too. And so then it's about like finding the spaces in this schedule where I can step into that space. I had the opposite experience once where I went to Las Vegas and I was coming from like Colorado, like garden hippie, like I just thought I was so enlightened and high and mighty. And I spent a week at like a seminar thing in this hotel, like in Las Vegas, and I found like by the second day, I was completely wrapped into like the whole cultural paradigm of like money and hierarchy, and like I realized people weren't taking me seriously because of how I was dressed, and I wish I was dressed better. And like it goes the other way too, where you can put yourself in situations where like all of a sudden you're acting a completely different role and your values change. So yeah, it's a gift to be able to like keep it so clean that it's just like food, sleep, beach, yoga, soulful connections.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I've been thinking about worldly topics and what's going on, uh and I've been thinking about how okay, so today I went surfing and I was talking with my buddy Brad about these news reports that I've been hearing about dolphins. And there's like in Southern California, there's this algae bloom going on, and so then it's affecting dolphins and seals and whales, and it's not good. And they're having neurological issues with it. And then I was thinking about how a lot of people that are making decisions on this planet are not connected to any of this stuff. Like they don't care. They just don't care about that. And what they're thinking about is how they're dressed, what they're getting, how much money they have, how much they're gaining, all this stuff. And they have no connection to the natural world. And like you said, you mentioned, you know, you can find like a million amazing things happening in 1 square inch of nature. Um, you know, but like these people aren't connected to that. And that's my that was my thought is like how do you fix that? Like how do we as like a society fix it when there's a lot of people that are disconnected from like the like what's real.
Mm.
And you know, there's lots of forms of it. There's like forms of it at like the top levels, the top echelons of humans, but then also in general, like so many people are just focused on what's at the strip mall and the food that's being served at the fast food restaurant and stuff like that. There's a big disconnection going on.
You know, I had a thought once when I was flying on an airplane and I was looking down at this structure that is humanity. And from the perspective of an airplane, you don't see people, you just see forms. And the
Right.
forms you see are very natural. You know, you have like this water, river coming in, and there's a little, city that kind of starts next to the water and it branches out, and then there's farmland and there's all these roads connecting it. It's like it's very logical to look at it and be like, oh, this is like this little growth. And we don't, from that airplane view, you can't see like the farmer that like had to discuss like the cost of the boards of the barn. You just see like a barn, and oh, like every mile there's a barn, and like barns just get built every couple miles apart. And I think when I look at people like you're describing that are in these situations where they're overly concerned about their wealth or how they're dressed or, whatever else, the thought that I've had in the past is like if you look at a tree, there's all of these different elements that make up a tree. And we could stand back and be like, that tree is beautiful. You know, it's got leaves that are dancing up here, and it's got this solid trunk, and it's got roots and all of these things. And I wonder if those cells were able to self-evaluate and judge each other. Do you think that the leaves up in the trees that are just carefree and dancing and perspiring, they look at that really hard cell that's like at the branch of a tree that's like holding up all this weight and saying like, "Oh, you're so calloused." Like, you should be playful. You should be like dancing and free. Like I think in a way these people like I mean I'm just gonna say Donald Trump like I don't think Donald Trump is an individual. I think Donald Trump like is the pearl inside of an oyster, the condensed energy of generation after generation of like what we've been doing and trauma and all of this shit. Like yeah, I don't think that there's any fault. I
Agreed.
don't think
He
there's
didn't make himself that way. He was formed that way. And then he was I mean, he's one of millions and millions of people that think exactly the same way and were formed the same way and were formed in the same fires that he was. And it's like I've heard it talked about that like Donald Trump is what late stage capitalism is gonna produce.
He's the
And if
fruit,
it
like
wasn't him, it'd be
100
somebody
proof.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like he's part of that formation of the tree. The challenge is that it's like it's gonna affect the whole tree. And so what do we do?
But maybe the tree is growing under some like wisdom that we aren't really tuned into.
Right? That we can't see from our
Yeah.
individual perspectives of whatever point of the tree that we are. Yeah, hopefully. It's a wild thing. I mean, like we talked about AI earlier, and then there's like all the political stuff going on. There's like a lot of ways that we could look at it that we could say might be negative. Some people might be say it's positive, but there's a lot of wild stuff going on. This is a super dynamic time and place in history.
Another way to make my like kind of thesis is like you're a Carlsbad dwelling surfing artist who was born in Colorado and like kind of had an experience, but had you been born in, I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a really wealthy, affluent part of the East Coast or something, like, you would conform to whatever was happening there and you would be having that experience. And it's kind of silly for a Colorado-born hippie, which I consider myself to be, to like judge someone who was born and raised in a different environment. Like everyone kind of embodies what's required of them for survival, for safety, for yeah. I don't know. I
Right.
think we just have to see how it all plays out.
We do. Just keep making that art,
Keep making that
expressing,
art, keep surfing those waves,
surfing
keep
the
loving
waves
on
of
those
life.
dolphins.
That's right. And loving the puppies, those
The
guys are
puppies, the
important.
puppies need the most love.
You know who hasn't been on the podcast yet? Is Nova.
Oh, Nova.
Yeah, little Nova
Supernova.
Squish. What's going on? She's making an appearance. See, that's the fun of video. The video podcast can have a little Nova on it. Whereas the
I think
audio is
Nova
just
needs to make a little appearance on every episode,
I
like your
think she should.
mascot.
I think she should. Man, well, what are you working on these days? What do you got? What's the game plan next couple little bit?
Oh man, I've got all this like stacks and stacks of these huge canvases, and I'm just gonna put paint on them. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
like what manifested coming back from the jungle. So I'm just gonna like keep riding that.
Yeah, what an unbelievable manifestation. That's so great.
Yeah, this one right here, I think is probably got to be like 60 or 70 inches by like 30 or 40 inches with a frame on it already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great. I've been excited about you taking your artwork bigger for a bit.
Yeah.
We've talked about this one time or maybe a million times.
It's been hard to put away the safety, pacifier of what I know I can do and do well.
Right. But you did a mural recently that was incredible.
Thank you. I only like wanted to jump out the window 10 times.
Yeah, that's how you know you're doing it right.
That's right.
If you're questioning your sanity every step of the way,
Every step of the way.
that's how you know you're doing it right.
I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's cool. Yeah, it's going to be fun to see you rocking out on these canvases. It's a whole new size. It's a whole
Yeah, I think what I'm
new
gonna
scope.
do is I think I'm gonna start with like a little like meditative exercise. Like you've got kind of a cool formula and I've done it in the past and it's really awesome with like the meditating and the journaling and like the movement. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create like these little thumbnails, probably with watercolor, but just like, this is a big ass canvas. And I think I'm just gonna kind of create like a little, maybe even a series of like sketches. Do a little process, do some little sketches, and then once I have something that's just like representative of like colors I like or like general composition, then I'm gonna try and translate that in acrylic to the larger scale, which I haven't really worked at this scale yet. That's my current thinking.
Love it. Well, if you need anybody to tell you that you just keep going, you just call me up and I'll tell you to just keep going. If you're questioning your sanity at all,
Hmm.
call me up. Send me
Yeah,
that photo.
these seem less sanity questioning. The mural project was for my little sister who loves me dearly, but is also like so particular with everything. So she's not the best. She's a client that I wanted very much to impress. So I think it was
Yeah.
self-inflicted that, yeah. It turned out fantastic. I'm so glad that I just like stuck with it, stuck with the process. It's hard to
Oh, it looks
like
so good.
go, I think it was I added up, it was over 80 hours. And probably half of those hours were just like figuring out like what to do next. I could probably do it in half the time with what I learned.
Yeah. And that is art.
And that is art, yes. The part you don't see.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of the billable hours are actually us questioning our sanity
Our
and
entire existence.
figuring out what we're actually doing. That's cool, right? Right, lawyers?
Yeah,
Right?
it's cool for me to hear that that still is part of your experience because it seems like at some level you just like unlock the matrix and like just all the powers of creativity flow through your fingertips. It's actually really comforting to know that you also sometimes have moments of like, what the fuck? What the literal fuck?
I do. I do. I think that as you go along, like as I've gone along, you get this ability to juggle not knowing what the next step is while you're doing the step at the same time. So like I think that that's something that like I'm questioning just as much as anybody else and I don't know what the next step is just like anybody else, but I'm figuring it out while I'm doing it
Mm.
like one action. And that's like as you go along, I think that's like a juggling act that you can kind of figure out.
Yeah, that's cool. I can see that. I think part of my time wasting is just like that interruptivity of like the paralysis of like, all right, something has to happen next. It'd be nice to do that processing while I'm doing something that is known.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I've like you helped me on a mural as an assistant. I've had other assistants. Anthony's been an assistant for a long time. I think working with assistants has helped me because I want to with an assistant when you're painting a mural, you also have like I also have to figure out what they're gonna do at all times. So I have to like if you're my assistant, I have to know what you're gonna do now and what you're gonna do next. And then I also have to be focusing on what I'm doing now and what I'm doing next. So like that practice has been really cool in
Hmm.
terms of me and my own work because I sort of like treat myself as the painter as my assistant and then myself as the creative as like the home base.
I kind of like that. It's sort of like the difference, like we said earlier, like between having thoughts and like thoughts arising. It's like your painting is sort of like part of this overall orchestration that you're doing, but you're not like attached to that like one moment, one decision, one paint stroke.
Yeah, it's all part of the whole flow. Just
But
keep swimming.
one of the things that I've loved about working with you that I've really just like brought home with me is that like is the notion that everything is everything is in flux. Everything is flowing. Like there's no real mistakes. You can always just like add or subtract or I think that's something that I didn't really realize until I worked closely with you is that like you're never in my experience like you've never had a moment of like oh shit because like you have the tools, you have the skills to like take anything and like shape it over iterations towards what you want. And that's been like super liberating as your assistant and also as like my own assistant that like, any mark, anything is welcome. Like it can all be kind of bent and shaped over a process. Trust the process.
Yeah, even if it's wrong, quote unquote. Like if you're doing a portrait and you do, the shape of like a jawline and a hairline or something, and it's quote unquote wrong, it's still not bad because if it's like any action is going to be a point of reference for the next move. And if you know that something is like incorrectly placed, but that then gives you the frame of reference for the correct angle. And you actually like can build off of that. It's like you kind of just have to like throw stuff on the wall and then build off of it. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. Like, and you're really, I mean, you'll probably, you sometimes could maybe get to the final answer quicker by doing the first action wrong because it's maybe easier to see the final correct thing or something. I don't know. It's like, there really is no wrong.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like a living process rather than, I mean, I think my tendency and a lot of other artists that I've seen is to like do every step like technically perfect, like get the first transfer perfect, get the lights and the darks perfect, like just but that like sucks all the fun out of it. Like there's no dance there. It's like trying to be hitting every spot on the floor as opposed to like just dancing. And so
Yeah.
I've liked that kind of if you throw something up and it looks wrong, like, wow, that's a huge signal. That's like really informs where you want to go more than any blank canvas would have been. And on some level, like when things are completely perfect, it's kind of boring.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. There's no style when it's like traced or yeah, there's something about that kind of like looseness where it kind of forms of its own direction that's really fun to look at.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's something I saw in my art school days from my colleagues doing their thing is like the funkier and the like more imperfect ends up being some of the most vibrant and interesting to look at. If it's perfect from the beginning, it's just like yeah, it's like automatic, it's robotic. It doesn't have
Leave
the
that to the
joie de
AI.
vivre. Yeah, leave that to the AI. AI can be perfect. Fuck them. We're humans. We're imperfect. It's awesome. Well, Rye, I think this was a great interview. What do you think?
Yeah, feels great.
Yeah? Is there anything else you want to tell the humans?
All the humans. I'm actually a robot,
I know. I've always
or
known.
or I'm a figment of your imagination.
That seems more accurate. You're a Dreamtime
Gosh.
connection.
Yeah.
Anything you want to tell
Yeah.
the AI?
That's a great question. Yes,
Because it's going to crawl this interview here
it
soon and
is. Yeah,
absorb it into
this
its
all gets
overall
added into
consciousness.
the like yeah, the Super Ball of everything that's ever been thought or uttered. I think that there is and will continue to be a very important role for humans in this brave new world that we are entering. I think that just like I said before about like I think that I'm going to live a long life because the universe enjoys being seen from this perspective. I think the human perspective has in it such a unique capacity to experience a wide range of beautiful, beautiful aspects of consciousness. I think that we are really special. And I think that the human perspective is one that is infinitely valuable. And I think as artists making human art, it only gets more valuable as the ability to just mass produce kind of stimulated content that is already deeply unsatisfying. And I think no matter how far down the road we go with, artificial superintelligence and all that stuff, that the unique capacity for humans to experience this universe with love and compassion and curiosity and the beauty that we are able to see, that's our gift. That's our ability. And that's where I'm going to continue to put my focus is just that awe and appreciation and participation and not the rabbit holes of fear or dread or worrying. I think that there's some intelligence working its way or working through something here that we're all a part of, and trusting it is the same as trusting ourselves. And it's hard to do, but it's like the real challenge. That's what we're here for. Saying yes.
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 Love it. All right. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in. If this spoke to your journey, spread the word, follow the pod, and keep chasing what lights you up.